The first time Steele walked into Rosie's diner, the room fell silent. The sound of his heavy boots on the checkered floor echoed like thunder after a long storm. His leather jacket bore the scars of years spent on the road, patches of freedom, rebellion, and a name that made locals whisper behind their coffee cups, the Iron Sons. He was the kind of man parents warned their kids about. Tattoos, a stare that could cut through stone, and a voice rough as gravel. But that night, as rain lashed against the windows and the neon sign flickered above the door, it wasn't the biker everyone was staring at. It was the waitress, the one with the faded bruises hidden under her long sleeves. Before we go deeper, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that even the toughest hearts can hold the most compassion, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs a little hope today. It helps more than you know. Her name was Lily. She moved like someone who'd forgotten how to take up space. Eyes always on the floor, smile polite but empty. Steele noticed how she winced every time she reached too far with the coffee pot, how she flinched when a man at the counter raised his voice, even in laughter. When she brushed past him to drop the check on his table, he caught sight of the yellow and purple beneath her wrist, barely visible where her sleeve had slipped. Something cold and sharp stirred in his chest. He'd seen bruises like that before, on his mother's arms years ago, before she disappeared into the night to escape a man who thought love was ownership. He didn't say a word. Not then, just left a tip so big it made her eyes widen in disbelief and walked out into the storm. But the image of those bruises clung to him like smoke. That night, he couldn't sleep. The wind rattled the windows of his small garage apartment, and every sound reminded him of someone trapped, someone trying not to cry out. He poured himself another whiskey, but the burn didn't quiet his thoughts. By dawn, he'd made a decision. For the next week, Steele came to Rosie's every day. Always the same order, black coffee, no sugar, 2 eggs. Always sitting at the same booth near the window, the one where he could see the parking lot and, more importantly, the people around Lily. He started noticing things. How a tall man with greasy hair and a mechanic's jacket sometimes dropped by, never smiling, always watching her too closely. How she'd tense when he entered, how her hand trembled when she poured his drink. Once, when the man brushed her arm on his way out, Steele saw her flinch like she'd been burned. Steele's brothers, the Iron Sons, started to notice his distraction. "You're off your game, boss," one of them said during a ride. "Something on your mind?" Steele just revved his bike and changed the subject. He wasn't ready to explain it yet, because deep down, he wasn't sure what he was planning. All he knew was that he couldn't look away. 2 weeks later, Rosie's closed early one night for repairs, but Steele saw Lily walking home alone along the side of the road, her small frame dwarfed by the shadows of the streetlights. He slowed his bike, staying a few paces behind so she wouldn't feel followed. But before he could call out, a car screeched up beside her. It was the same man, the one with the mechanic's jacket. He got out, grabbed her arm and started shouting. Steele's blood went cold. He parked his bike without thinking, his boots hitting the ground hard. The man turned when he heard him approach. "Mind your own business," he growled, but Steele didn't stop. "She said let go," Steele said, his voice low but steady. Lily tried to speak, but the man yanked her back, raising his hand. That was the last mistake he made. Steele's fist connected with his jaw, sending him sprawling across the hood of his own car. The sound was sickening. Bone against metal. The man scrambled up cursing, but won. Look at Steele's face made him think twice about swinging again. "Get in the car," Steele said to Lily, but she hesitated, her eyes darting between them. She looked terrified, not of Steele, but of what might come next. He softened his voice. "I'm not gonna hurt you. You don't have to go back with him. Not tonight." She nodded, tears mixing with the rain, as she climbed onto the back of his motorcycle. He handed her his spare helmet and, for the first time in what felt like years, drove not for freedom, but for someone else's safety. They stopped at the Iron Suns clubhouse, a place most people in town would never dare to enter. But inside, beneath the rough laughter and smell of oil, there was loyalty. The brothers fell silent when Steele walked in with Lily, soaked to the bone. He gave them one look and no one asked questions. He brought her to the back room where his mother used to stay before she passed, a small, quiet space with a bed and an old dresser. "You can rest here," he told her. "No one will bother you." Over the next few days, Lily spoke little, but her silence began to thaw. She told Steele her story in pieces: a drunk boyfriend, promises that turned into threats, dreams that died behind locked doors. She had tried to leave before, but fear always dragged her back. "He said no one would believe me," she whispered once, eyes fixed on the floor. Steele felt something in him shift. The man he'd once been, reckless, angry, aimless, suddenly had a purpose. He started making calls, quiet ones, to friends he trusted outside the law, to a lawyer who owed him a favor, to Rosie, who confirmed what everyone suspected but was too afraid to say, that the man had been hurting Lily for months and the police had done nothing. Steele wasn't a hero. He never claimed to be. But when the system failed, he believed in his own kind of justice. When the boyfriend came looking for her, the Iron Suns were ready. The night he rolled into their parking lot, shouting her name, every bike engine roared to life. The sight alone was enough to make him hesitate. Steele stepped forward, his shadow stretching long under the floodlights. "You'll lay a hand on her again," he said, his voice low, "and you'll wish the law got to you first." The man laughed at first, until he saw the way the bikers surrounded him, silent and unmoving, like wolves protecting their own. He turned pale. "She's mine," he hissed. Steele stepped closer, close enough for the man to see the fire in his eyes. "She was never yours," he said. That night, the man left town. No one saw him again. Rumor had it he packed up and drove west, terrified that the Iron Suns were following. Steele never confirmed or denied it. What mattered was that Lily was free. Weeks passed, and Rosie's diner buzzed with new whispers. People said the biker gang was changing. They noticed how the Iron Suns started volunteering at the town's food drive, fixing bikes for kids, even helping repaint the diner after hours. It all started with one small act, one man choosing compassion over indifference. Lily went back to work, this time smiling for real. She wore short sleeves now, and sometimes, when Steele stopped by for coffee, she'd pour it with a steady hand and a grateful heart. But the real shock came later, the night of the annual charity ride. The whole town gathered to watch as the Iron Suns roared down Main Street, engines echoing like thunder. At the front of the line rode Steele, with Lily on the back of his bike, wind in her hair, laughter on her lips. For the first time in years, she looked free. When they reached the end of the route, Steele took off his helmet and handed Rosie a check. All the donations from the ride dedicated to helping women escape abuse. The crowd went silent, and then, one by one, they began to clap. It wasn't about redemption anymore. It was about change, the kind that starts in quiet moments, in small acts of kindness that ripple outward. Steele wasn't the villain people had painted him to be. He was proof that even the roughest souls could carry gentleness in their hands. Months later, Rosie's diner added a new photograph to the wall, a black and white shot of Steele and Lily standing beside his motorcycle, her arm looped through his. Underneath, Rosie wrote, "Not all angels have wings, some ride Harleys." If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you that everyone deserves a second chance and that kindness can come from the most unexpected places. Please don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who might need it today, and subscribe for more stories that restore faith in humanity. Your support keeps these stories alive. And before we end, tell us in the comments, what does kindness mean to you? Have you ever witnessed a small act of compassion that changed someone's life? Your stories might inspire someone else to keep going. As for Steele and Lily, they never became legends in the way biker tales usually go. There were no headlines, no medals, no fame, just quiet lives built on healing, on helping others, and on the belief that people aren't defined by their scars, but by how they rise after being broken. The town that once feared the Iron Sons now saw them for what they truly were. Men trying to make things right in a world that often forgot how. And sometimes, when the sun dipped low and the engines roared in the distance, folks at Rosie's diner would smile and say, "That sound? That's not trouble anymore. That's hope rolling down the highway